Welcome to Fantasy Football Hub. Today I'm joined by the big man Bakar to preview the upcoming game week 33. Bakar, we have a lot to get through. First of all, going to have a quick look back at your free hit. Another green arrow for you. You've overtaken me, absolutely flying, putting all those haters to rest. Rumours are you've been doing the shush celebration. Is that a rumour or is that true?
No, my man, I hope you do equally as well as I've been doing in recent weeks. To be fair, the free hit was slightly underwhelming. I got 68 points. I see a lot of free hitters got 75, 80 plus points, which is great. I mean, there were certain swings which didn't work in my favor. I picked Jesus over Odegaard, Solanke over Tony. But then again, I was lucky enough to have Fabian Schär on Sunday, and he got me 2 assists. So 68 is a decent score, and I'll take that considering that it's a slight green arrow for me. And hopefully I can build on that in the weeks to come.
Well, some quick maths on the fly here. Out of the last 12 game weeks, you now have 10 green arrows. Some form you're in, Bakar. Really putting those haters to rest. It's good to see. You're flying right now. Let's move on. Let's get into your team for the upcoming game week. I want to kind of focus this video a lot on your team in particular, because I think a lot of the problems that you have in your team are going to be quite pertinent to a lot of problems that a lot of managers have. Let's start with the one that we're really not sure about. Bruno Fernandes. What are your thoughts on him? Give us an injury update. What are you thinking?
I mean, we don't have an official injury update on Fernandes from Ten Hag. The only thing we know is that he was pictured by his wife and he was wearing a protective boot, and we could see clutches on the side as well. But apparently there are rumors now that the protective boot is just being used as a precaution. So we don't exactly know. Basically, long story short, we don't exactly know how long he's out for. He could, if I was to guess, he could be back for game week 34. I think he will probably miss this week. I would have assumed. Whether or not he's back for double game week 34 is up for debate. And that's the thing. A lot of people are in the position where we have strong benches. People have the likes of Grealish, Saka, Martinelli. In that position, I think a lot of people can afford to roll the transfer so that we can get more information going forward, because let's assume that Fernandes is fit in game week 34. There's a chance that you might want to keep him for the weeks to come, because you might have another double in game week 37 as well. Coming to my team, my first sub is Odegaard, so I'm not really sure whether I should trust Odegaard away to Man City, because frankly speaking, I don't see much there for Arsenal. I think they'll score one goal possibly. While City, I think, will do really well. Yeah. So it's a trickier decision for me, and I haven't really made my mind about it. I'm going to wait for another couple of hours to see if we get some news before the deadline. And let's see where I'm at with the injury update.
It's worth saying, guys, we are recording this at 3:30 on deadline day. We're doing this as late as possible to try and get in as much information as possible. And I want to ask you now about Brighton midfielders, because we've just had some information from De Zerbi in his most recent press conference talking about, what's the name of it? Is it Buonanotte? I don't want to mispronounce his name, but saying that he's gonna start. What are you thinking on that?
The Argentinian midfielder. He's an attacking midfielder, and he's likely to play as the number 10, basically. And that's he can play in the front three. I mean, on the left, on the right as well, but it's likely he plays in the front as the number 10. And if that is the case, then McAllister is probably likely to play deeper, which isn't really ideal for his owners. But I mean, if I was a McAllister owner, I'd probably just keep him. I mean, I won't go on hearsay, and there is a chance that he can play in the number 10 role. We're just speculating at this point in time. So I would keep McAllister, especially because, there's rumors, not rumors. In fact, we saw at the weekend that Welkman was back in the squad, and in fact, he came on and played for a while as well. So let's say even if this guy does start this week, after this week, there's every possibility that Welkman's starting as a right back and McAllister's back in the number 10 position. So he'll be a good prospect going forward. I just think there's a better use of transfers this week. I mean, I think this is a bit of a luxury transfer to make.
Okay.
I would rather roll in this position.
So let's talk about transfers then, and players that you're really targeting. Obviously, Liverpool have been in good form recently, and we saw that in the double. Sorry, in the free hit. It's an interesting one though, because as we saw, the points are slightly spread. Some players are looking really good. A lot of us went for Gakpo. Obviously, he disappointed with just 1 point. The likes of Jota played brilliantly. Salah again getting on the score sheet. What are you thinking there with your team in particular, and looking at Liverpool players, especially with 34 on your mind?
I'm prioritizing Salah and Trent, simply because of their numbers. They've been exceptional, and Liverpool have 3 home games in game week 34 and 35, so they tend to do better at home. Their underlying data is better at home. I think they'll be very good picks in the times to come, and I don't want to compromise on two of the most explosive assets we've seen historically. I mean, Salah, his own home numbers are incredible when you look at the last 4 matches. In fact, which he started since his benching in game week 29. He's top among all players in the league for XGI, while Trent, since his move to the inverted fullback position, has the highest expected assists tally of all players in the league. So these are 2 players I'm targeting. Diego Jota is an interesting one.
Mm.
I think he's likely to start against West Ham, and if that is the case, then I think there is every chance that he misses one of the next 2 in the double, because Liverpool have a very short turnaround from Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. And with the amount of options they have, with Diaz coming back in as well, Darwin has not been starting recently. I think there's a chance that he could be rested. So I would consider Jota more seriously if, let's say, he was rested this week.
Okay, let's talk about routes to get to Salah and Trent then, because I'm looking at your team here, and Kane is the name that screams out to me as the cash cow, really. I mean, that seems quite harsh. He's had an unbelievable season. Again, we saw, despite getting battered by Newcastle, he still comes up with a solid amount of points. He seems to just tick along brilliantly. Would he be the man that you'd be getting rid of in order to get those players in?
Yes, I mean, I have no qualms in keeping Kane this week, because his numbers at home are decent, and if United are without Bruno, they're a weaker team. So I won't be surprised to see Kane get some points, and it's basically you're getting some extra information. I mean, let's say if Jota is rested this week, I might want to do Kane to Jota instead. So I'm happy keeping Kane this week, but yes, after this week, I think he's expendable, simply because the number of fixtures. I mean, you play the number of fixtures, right? And Liverpool have more fixtures, United have more fixtures, Brighton, Newcastle, City. That's simply playing the fixtures.
And we've spoken about Arsenal midfielders and players in general as well. Would it be an Arsenal player that you'd be getting rid of in order to get Salah in midfield? Or would it be an Arsenal defender that you'd recommend perhaps to get rid of to get Trent in?
Again, I mean, I think defenders are easier to bench. When you look at the Arsenal defenders, I think they're easier to bench. And I mean, if you don't have any other route to Trent, then I mean, I have no problem selling them. But I mean, I wouldn't necessarily look at selling an Arsenal defender. While I mean, for most teams, I assume Saka will be the make weight for Salah,
Yeah.
or Martinelli or Odegaard, as is in my case. I mean, I'll be selling Odegaard for Salah. So I mean, I think they're definitely expendable when you look at their fixtures. I mean, City this week. After that, they have Chelsea. Okay, Chelsea is a decent fixture, to be honest, but again, it's a single week. When others around them are doubling, then 35, they have Newcastle, Brighton. So I think we can probably afford to go without them for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then before the last 2 weeks of the season, we'll probably have to get 1 or 2 of them again.
Yeah, it's a weird one. They've obviously been so good this season, but we've spoken about this little run for a while. Lack of fixtures. Maybe the pressure is starting to get to them a little bit. The wins aren't coming as easily, and obviously a very tough fixture this week. You wouldn't take a hit this week to get Salah and Trent in for Kane and Odegaard in your team in particular? You're happy to wait for a week?
Yes, I mean, Trent is an interesting one. I mean, I like him for his upside and his stacking threat, but I do think West Ham will score simply because Liverpool's underlying data away from home has been very poor, and West Ham are looking decent in recent times. So I have a good feeling about them this week. Salah, I could prepone the hit and sell Kane, but as I've said, Kane is generally better at home. Salah away from home isn't as impressive. So I'm happy to wait a week to give myself an extra week of information.
Okay, now let's talk about one of the form players in the league, maybe in the world right now, the Newcastle striker, Isak. He's just been in unbelievable form again. This just absolutely running Tottenham riot. I mean, that game was an absolute joy to watch, I will say. Some of the goals were brilliant. Thoughts on getting him in and just Newcastle players in general? Obviously, we saw they have now had that double announced for Gameweek 36. What are you thinking there?
I think you have to prioritize bringing Isak in the weeks to come, simply because of the fact that Newcastle have the best double in 36. I mean, when you compare them to Brighton's double isn't the greatest. I mean, when you look at their fixtures, they're playing Newcastle in 1 week, and the other game is against Arsenal, right, away from home. It just
Okay.
isn't ideal. So you'd want to go for Newcastle because they're playing Leeds instead, and they also have Brighton. And Isak is on penalties, and he's a bit of a talisman when you compare him to the Brighton ones. You know that. I mean, in my opinion, he's clearly first choice ahead of Wilson. He's likely to play as a striker. So he needs to come in. When that happens is entirely team dependent. I mean, the way I'm looking at my team, there are one or two options. There's a possibility that I keep Watkins in my team till game week 36, then sell Watkins to Isak in 36. The other alternative is that I might need funds next week. So I might, if I keep Bruno Fernandes, I'll need funds to fund Salah and Trent. In that case, I might sell Watkins to Isak next week because I believe Isak is expendable. Having said that, Watkins is expendable. Having said that, I'd also like to point out here that even if you get Isak next week in 34 and 35, it's likely that you're probably going to end up benching him because such are the benching dilemmas that we're likely to face in the times to come, that it will be very difficult to us to pick the right players.
Yeah, that's what's crazy is that a lot of doubles in 34, and then as you mentioned, 35 is not looking great. I mean, maybe it is looking better when we get there, but obviously not a great fixture on paper. Let's talk about captaincy this week, because I've seen your tweets. You're quite bullish on captaincy, despite the fact that there's not necessarily a standout here. What do you think?
I think there's a clear standout.
I knew you'd say that.
I mean, I think there's a clear standout, to be very honest. I mean, I am not betting against Haaland at home this season. His home numbers are just monstrous. When you look at his XGI per 90, City's XG per 90 at home, they're just creating numbers which are on another level. And when you look at Arsenal, their XG per game has risen from 1.03 to 1.93 since the loss of Saliba. So, I mean, I think
Massive.
City are going to have plenty of fun against the Arsenal defense. And I almost feel naked without double City attack in this fixture.
Wow, and that is a really scary thought, I will say. That is truly terrifying. Thoughts on Watkins then as an outside captaincy shout? Anything there? It's a good fixture now?
I think he's going to do well as well. But again, I just think Haaland's ceiling is on another level. And, generally with Haaland, there's always the possibility of him getting subbed early. But I'm sure he's going to play 90 minutes in this fixture no matter what. Pep is not going to sub him off, even if this is mentality.
Yeah, this is more than a game. This is more than 90 minutes. I agree with you. Yeah.
So that's not going to happen.
It's funny, but Pep, he keeps saying this is not the title deciding game. But if City batter Arsenal in this game, which, let's be honest, that could happen. It could be a 4-1. It really could. Then what sort of message is that going to send to the Arsenal players when they know that City are catching them? Let's finally talk about other City players. Haaland, as you say, is the obvious one, and yeah, he does seem like a very good shout for captaincy this week. I do want to give a little bit of a mention to Watkins there because he's been in such formidable form. Other Man City players, you said you feel naked without another City attacker. Who would you go for in that situation if you could pick anyone? And then secondly, let's talk about the City defence. You have Ederson in goal. Thoughts on him and thoughts on other City defenders?
I think when it comes to the midfield, we've pretty much been priced out of KDB since we're likely to go with Salah. I don't see a realistic way to get to KDB without overlooking Salah, and I don't really like that considering how good Salah has looked in recent times. But if I was looking at another option, I think it probably has to be Grealish. I mean, Mahrez scored a hat-trick in midweek, but I won't be confident of him starting against Arsenal because Pep likes control, and there's every chance that Bernardo gets a start. In fact, I was speaking to a few City fans, and they're not entirely sure whether Mahrez is going to start this fixture. However, Grealish,
Okay.
on the other hand, has clearly played himself into Pep's starting 11, and he's expected to start. So just in terms of the expected minutes, I think Grealish is the best option. When it comes to defense, I think Diaz is clearly the best one now that Ake is out injured. I think if you're looking for a defender, you can go with Diaz for security of minutes. And Edison is a steady Eddie pick. I mean, he'll either get 2 or 6. I mean, he's a boring pick, but it makes sense. I mean, honestly, at this point in the season, I don't think he's a bad pick at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think, my friend, that is going to do it for this one. A little quick fire one. There's a lot to get through, but we're doing this close to the deadline. Want to get this out quickly for you guys. Some last minute information to help you and give you a little bit of an insight into who to captain, transfers this week. It's all up in the air, really. I think the message of this one is slightly, we don't really have that much information. I guess not as much as we'd like, and there's a limit to what we can do with that. Bakar, good luck this game, my friend. Thank you very much, as always.
You too, my man.
Going to be,
Hope
7 greens in a row if you get a green? Is that right?
I don't really like the look of my team this week, so let's see.
Well, you know what they say. Form is temporary, but class is permanent. Bakar is showing it, guys. Here we go. Good luck, everyone, and we will see you on the next one.
Cheers, Shaq.